When Nigel Smith agreed to accompany his wife Scarlett to a gathering at their friend's house, he expected polite small talk and bland cocktails, not a night that would obliterate his marriage. But what began as an innocuous social event turned into a shocking revelation of betrayal, temptation, and fractured trust. Scarlett's unthinkable request, one night to break free from the constraints of their decade-long marriage, sets off a devastating chain of events. As secrets unravel and vows are tested, Nigel is faced with an impossible choice: fight for the love they once shared, or walk away to protect what little remains of his family. This story will grip your heart, twist your moral compass, and leave you questioning where loyalty ends and personal freedom begins. My dear friend, be sure to subscribe to my channel if this is your first time here, and give your royal like to this video. Scarlett was furious with me, her husband, Nigel Smith, and she made no effort to disguise it. Her anger was as stark as the moonlit road we traveled, heading home from a gathering hosted by her friends, Mila and Daniel Jackson. She sat stiffly in the passenger seat, body angled toward the car door as if the space between us couldn't possibly be wide enough. Her arms were locked across her chest, her expression sour enough to curdle milk. The cause of her rage? That part couldn't have been clearer. The truth is, I had managed to sabotage her entire evening. Not intentionally, of course, but that didn't make the fallout any less painful. My actions had embarrassed Scarlett, the woman I'd loved for over a decade and the mother of our 3 children. Did I feel guilty? Yes, to a degree. But the night itself had been anything but ordinary, and my so-called mistake stemmed from a conflict of principles rather than thoughtlessness. Here's how it unfolded. The Jacksons' parties, as I only discovered too late, came with a peculiar twist. This wasn't your typical night of small talk and cocktails. The evening ended with a shocking ritual. As it turned out, the wives were expected to drop their house keys into a communal bowl, and the husbands would draw a key at random, leading to a night spent with someone who wasn't their spouse. Scarlett had conveniently neglected to mention this detail beforehand. I was utterly blindsided. When the bizarre tradition became apparent, I pulled Scarlett aside into the kitchen, my temper simmering just below the surface. "Did you know about this?" I asked, keeping my voice low but laced with anger. "Yes," she replied casually, as if we were discussing something as mundane as the weather. "And you didn't think to tell me?" I pressed, disbelief mounting with every word. "No," she said, her tone maddeningly indifferent, "because I knew you'd say no." She wasn't wrong. I would have flatly refused, and still did. "We're leaving, now," I declared firmly. Her glare could have burned through steel. "We can't leave now. It would be rude." "Rude?" I repeated, incredulous. "You've dragged me into an absurd situation without my consent. And for what? Some thrill you think we need?" She threw her hands up, exasperated. "Nigel, it's just one night. It's harmless, and honestly, we could use the excitement." Her words stung. "Excitement? I don't need this kind of excitement, Scarlett. Apologize if you must, but we're going home." Her voice softened, tinged with desperation. "I do need it. I want to feel alive again, to be more than just a wife and mother." I shook my head, my resolve unshaken. "No, I've been faithful to you for 10 years, and I'm not about to start compromising our marriage now." Ignoring her protests, I led her back to the living room where the guests had gathered, their attention fixed on the infamous bowl. Scarlett struggled to pull away, but I held my ground. Standing before the group, I made my position unmistakably clear. "I wasn't informed of this arrangement," I announced, my voice calm but resolute. "And I won't be participating. My wife isn't up for grabs." Reaching into the bowl, I fished out our house key, its blue keychain immediately recognizable. Holding it aloft, I addressed the crowd. "My marriage is too important for me to play along with this. I won't compromise my values for a game." A ripple of discontent murmured through the room, but I didn't care. Turning to Scarlett, I gave her a choice. "You can come home with me now, or you can stay here, but if you stay, don't expect to return." The room grew deathly quiet, all eyes on Scarlett. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and her voice was tight with frustration as she finally spoke. "I'm sorry for my husband's behavior," she told the group, her words brittle. I'd like to stay, but it seems I have no choice. Reluctantly, she followed me to the car, the air between us heavy with tension. Once inside, her anger erupted. "You're impossible," she spat. "Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? We'll never be invited to another one of their parties." I met her fiery gaze with one of my own. "Humiliate you? What about how you humiliated me by keeping this a secret? You were ready to spend the night with another man without even telling me." She rolled her eyes, her defiance unshaken. "You could have chosen another woman, Nigel. It could have been fun for both of us." My frustration boiled over. "I don't want another woman, Scarlett. I've been faithful to you since the day we married, and it's devastating to think that after 10 years you're searching for something, or someone, else." Her tone softened, almost pleading. "It would have been just one time. But for me, no explanation or justification could make it right. There are some lines that should never be crossed. Just one night. That was all she asked for. Out of all the moments we had shared, she wanted this single evening to stand apart." "It's not too much, is it?" she asked, her tone calm but pressing. "It's everything, Scarlett," I retorted, my grip tightening on the steering wheel, my voice rising with frustration. "This isn't some trivial request. It's monumental." Without a second thought, I yanked the car to the side of the road. "Fine!" I spat through clenched teeth, making a sharp U-turn that sent the tires screeching against the pavement. The car lurched back in the direction of the Jacksons' house. Scarlett gasped, her hand flying to the door handle. "Nigel, what are you doing?" "If it means that much to you, then go," I said, my anger spilling over. "I'm not stopping you." I pressed the gas, pulling into the Jacksons' driveway with a jarring halt. "There you go, Scarlett. You still have time to live out your little fantasy." Her face paled. "What are you even saying?" "I'm saying you can go inside," I answered coldly. "Go find someone who can give you whatever it is you think I'm not." Scarlett's voice quivered as she stared at me. "It's not like that, Nigel. This is about one night. You're everything I could want, but I need something different. Just this once." Disbelief coursed through me as I shook my head. "I don't need this," I shot back. "I've stayed loyal to you through everything. I won't throw that away. If you walk through that door, we're finished. Do you understand? Finished." Her hand lingered near the door handle, her uncertainty evident. "Will you pick me up in the morning?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," I said, my tone flat and final. "Whoever you spend tonight with can figure that out for you." Her face hardened, and her voice grew defensive. "You're twisting this into something vile, Nigel. That's not what it is." "It's exactly what it is, Scarlett," I replied, steel in my words. "You're choosing to spend the night with someone you barely know." She sighed, the sound heavy with frustration. "It's just one night. You'll see. By morning, this will all be behind us, and we'll move on like nothing happened." I met her eyes, unwavering. "No, Scarlett. If you walk in there, we won't move on. I won't forget, and I won't forgive." For a moment, she hesitated. Then, with a defiant smile tugging at her lips, she pushed the door open and stepped out. "See you in the morning, Nigel." "You won't," I murmured as I drove off, leaving her standing there. My hands shook as I clutched the wheel, tears blurring my vision. Every part of me hoped she'd call, hoped she'd change her mind and plead for me to come back. But the phone remained silent. She had made her decision. Scarlett had chosen a fleeting thrill over everything we had built together. My father's voice echoed in my mind, a grim reminder. If she's even considering it, the line's already been crossed. He was right. Our marriage was over. The pain of losing Scarlett wasn't the worst part. It was the thought of our children, Sophia, 9, Abigail, 8, and Nigel Jr., only 4. How could I face not seeing them every day? But how could I ignore what Scarlett had done? There had to be consequences. With the kids staying at my mom's for the weekend, I had a little space to think. I drove aimlessly for over half an hour, my eyes flicking to my phone every few minutes, hoping for a call that never came. Each passing second drove the truth home. Scarlett wasn't calling. She had made her choice. Eventually, I headed back home. As I pulled into the driveway, my phone rang. My heart leapt for a fleeting moment, only to crash when I saw the caller ID. I answered anyway. "Nigel?" came the voice from the other end. It was Michael Trexler, someone from the party. "Scarlett gave me your number. She's hoping you'll come back. Says she's looking forward to tonight. Thinks you should join in. You're a lucky guy, man." My stomach churned, and my chest tightened. In that moment, any lingering hope I had crumbled to dust. There was no going back. Every man in the room was restless, waiting for their chance to claim her key. She had spent the entire evening hyping up the moment, promising it would be unforgettable and urging everyone to take part. "Things are getting intense over here," Michael's voice crackled through the phone. "The anticipation is killing everyone. Nobody can wait to see who they end up with tonight. There's still time for you to come back and join in, Nigel. Some truly gorgeous women are here. They're ready to give you a night you won't forget," he pressed on. "Go to hell, Michael Trexler," I spat, my voice thick with rage. "And to hell with everyone at that ridiculous party, including my unfaithful wife. I hope you all get exactly what you deserve." I slammed the phone down, fury coursing through my veins, and stormed into the house, my mind awash with anger and despair. Within 20 minutes, I had stuffed 2 suitcases with clothes, packed my laptop and shaving kit, and hauled everything out to the car. Rifling through a drawer, I unearthed our marriage certificate. My hands trembled as I ripped it into 4 jagged pieces. Then, with deliberate force, I took a hammer to my wedding ring, striking it again and again until it was a mangled, unrecognizable scrap of metal. I placed the destroyed ring and shredded certificate on Scarlett's pillow, a silent declaration that this was the end. Locking the door behind me, I drove off into the night. My only plan was to find a motel a few miles away, but as I passed the Jacksons' house, I slowed. A few cars were gone already, and clusters of people lingered under the streetlights, chatting in low voices. Scarlett was nowhere in sight. No doubt she had already disappeared with her new partner, perhaps Daniel Jackson himself. The motel I checked into was unremarkable, nestled in a quiet nearby town. Its tucked-away parking lot was perfect for someone seeking solitude. After securing my car, I walked to a convenience store and picked up a 6-pack of Newcastle. Back in the room, I flipped on the TV and cracked open the first 2 beers, hoping to dull the raw edge of my anger. By the time I reached for the third, my phone buzzed. It was Scarlett. I let it go to voicemail, knowing whatever she had to say would only pour fuel on the fire. Her message came through moments later, sharp and dripping with condescension. "Nigel, you're being ridiculous," she began. "Michael told me about your tantrum. How many times do I have to say it? It's just one night. I'll spend a few hours with someone else. It doesn't make me a terrible person," she continued, her tone almost playful. "I know it stings, but I'll make it up to you in ways you can't even imagine tomorrow. Oh, and since you bailed on the key bowl, they gave me another one. Lucas got it. He's sweet. Promised he wouldn't pressure me. Lucas is married too, with kids even. Since you didn't show up, I went to his place instead. His wife and her boyfriend are in another room, so we won't be bothering anyone when things heat up. You know how loud I can get." She giggled like it was some shared joke. "Nigel, I know you're upset, but I told him to keep it simple. Nothing you haven't done with me. It's my first time, after all. He's fine with that. He'll drive me home tomorrow and I'll shower before seeing you. No leftovers for you, baby. Sweet dreams, love. Get ready for some fun when I'm back." She ended with a breezy, "Love you, Nigel." Hearing her voice felt like being stabbed in the chest. How had I ended up married to someone so utterly oblivious to her own cruelty? Scarlett had always been a bit scatterbrained, but I had once found it endearing. Now, her carelessness had become something far darker. She couldn't, or wouldn't, see that her actions had destroyed everything. Her life as she knew it was crumbling. Her husband, her home, and perhaps even her children. I should have ignored the voicemail, but my fury refused to be contained. I dialed her number, and she answered after the 3rd ring. "Hey, babe," she purred, her voice infuriatingly sweet. "Lucas and I just got into bed, so I can't talk long." "Shut up, Scarlett," I interrupted, my tone cutting like ice. "This is the last time you'll ever hear from me. You have no idea what you've done, but you're about to find out. Enjoy your night with Lucas, I went on, because tomorrow, when you wake up, our marriage will be over. You're done. Her voice faltered. Nigel, what do you mean? But I had already ended the call. Don't do this, I said, my voice colder and more detached than I thought possible. I never thought I'd say this, but I despise you now far more than I ever loved you. Expect a call from my lawyer soon. With that, I hung up. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed again. It was her. I let it ring, sending it to voicemail. Her voice broke through the silence, shaky and desperate. Nigel, she began, why are you doing this? How could you say something so awful to me? I'm your wife. Can't you just let me have one night? She continued, her tone a mix of indignation and pleading. Lucas and I have only just begun, and now you're ruining everything. I don't even know if I'll enjoy being with him anymore. We're not getting divorced, Nigel. I'll be home tomorrow and we'll figure this out. I'd come back now, she added, almost apologetic. But I promised Lucas I'd stay tonight. Please, try to understand. I gave him my word, told him he could have me. I can't break that promise, not now. Her voice softened, as though she was speaking to someone nearby, probably him. Then, barely above a whisper but still audible, Oh God, yes, Lucas is ready. A pause followed. I have to go. I love you, Nigel. I'll always love you. See you in the morning. My stomach turned. Unable to stop myself, I called her back, but this time the phone rang out until voicemail picked up. She was already with him. Still, I left a final message. Scarlett, I said, my voice edged with betrayal and finality. I know where you are and who you're with. You're indulging in whatever thrills he's giving you while tearing me apart. You've shattered my heart and I'll never forgive you. You honored your promise to Lucas but destroyed your vows to me. You're an adulterer now. Stay with him or find someone else, it doesn't matter. You've lost me forever. She didn't call back. I understood why. Once Scarlett became involved with someone, she immersed herself completely, shutting out everything else. I doubted she even listened to my final words. Not that it mattered. Our marriage was over. I finished the last of my six-pack, doing my best not to picture her in Lucas's bed, sharing the intimacy that used to be ours. But I couldn't stop myself. Scarlett had always been vocal during moments like that. Tonight would be no different. Eventually, the alcohol dulled the sharpness of my thoughts, pulling me into a restless, tear-soaked sleep. When I woke hours later, the reality crashed back in. My wife had betrayed me, and now I had to figure out how to protect my kids, remove Scarlett from my life, and ensure everyone involved faced the consequences. We lived in Norwood, Mississippi, a small, picturesque town along the Gulf Coast. Fortunately, Mississippi law recognized adultery as valid grounds for divorce. That could play in my favor, perhaps even sparing me from child support and giving me custody of the kids. But for that, I needed a sharp lawyer who could fight for me. By 7:30, I was showered, dressed, and on the phone with my mom. I told her everything. She was as shocked as I had been by Scarlett's betrayal and promised to keep quiet around the kids until I had a plan. I assured her I'd pick them up soon, once I figured things out. Yet a bitter truth loomed. Scarlett would likely win temporary custody. She had been a good mother, or at least she was until last night. Now, I couldn't see her the same way. After ending the call with my mom, I headed to a nearby diner for breakfast. Just as I pulled into the parking lot, my phone lit up again. Scarlett. I ignored it. She called once more, and when I didn't answer, she left a voicemail. Her voice, broken with sobs, filled the air as I listened. Nigel, please answer the phone. What do you mean I might never see you again? Divorce papers? You can't leave me, Nigel. I won't let you. Our kids need both of us. How could you tear up our marriage certificate and throw away your ring like that? You vowed to wear it forever. I never imagined that promise would be taken to such unyielding extremes. I love you, Nigel, more than words can express. That night with Lucas, it was a whirlwind, electrifying, unforgettable. For the first time in what felt like ages, I felt truly alive. I had forgotten the joy of laughing and crying in the same breath, the rush of unrestrained emotion. But despite the exhilaration, you are my home, my heart, my everything. No one else compares to you. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please just come back. Let me show you how deeply I adore you." Her voice cracked, shattering under the weight of her tears. Why don't you see it, Nigel? I needed to feel wanted, to be desired in a way that reignited something inside me. I needed someone to look at me like I was irresistible again, to feel another man's hunger. It was intoxicating. You can't imagine what that means to a woman at this stage in her life. But it wasn't love, Nigel. It wasn't anything like what we have. It was simple, physical intimacy. A fleeting moment, an escape. Nothing more. I swear it won't happen again. Please, we need to talk. You and the kids are my world. I stood outside the diner, my body rigid, her words echoing in my mind. How long had she carried these thoughts? Had they silently festered all these years, only to explode a decade into our marriage? Scarlett remained stunning. Her shoulder-length brown hair framed those piercing blue eyes, and her figure, though softened by motherhood, still drew every gaze in a room. Sure, her hips were a little rounder after 3 children, but that only added to her beauty. Yet now she claimed to need validation from another man. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I had always made her feel loved, at least I thought I had. From surprise flowers to weekly date nights, I never let a day pass without reminding her of how much she meant to me. Yet none of that seemed to matter. She craved something new, an adrenaline surge, and in chasing it, she had destroyed the foundation of our life together. Forgiving her felt unimaginable. Inside the diner, I ordered a coffee and took a seat by the window, staring blankly at the street outside. The betrayal pressed heavily on my chest. This wasn't just about her sleeping with someone else. It was about trust, shattered and scattered like glass. The life we'd built, the family we cherished, everything was in ruins. And for what? A fleeting thrill with a stranger? The thought burned like salt in a wound. I knew what had to happen next. I needed a lawyer, someone sharp, someone relentless, someone who could help me protect my children and hold Scarlett accountable for her choices. Mississippi law took infidelity seriously, and I intended to use that to my advantage. Draining the last of my coffee, I stepped out into the crisp air and dialed the number of a highly recommended divorce attorney. This was the moment everything changed. Scarlett was undeniably captivating, with her rich brown hair, those magnetic blue eyes, and a presence that turned heads. Even after 3 children, her beauty had only deepened. So why this sudden desperation to be desired by someone else? I had done everything I could to show her she was cherished. I brought her gifts, planned romantic evenings, praised her beauty, and made sure she felt wanted in every possible way. Our intimacy was frequent and fulfilling, at least I thought so. I had worked hard to keep the spark alive. What more could she have needed? The storm inside me churned as I sat down to breakfast at the diner. I ordered scrambled eggs, toast, and black coffee, though the sight of food turned my stomach. The plate remained untouched while I drowned myself in cup after cup of coffee, trying to make sense of the chaos Scarlett had unleashed. I had never felt so empty, so hollow. The pain was unbearable, like a gaping wound that refused to heal. For the first time, I understood why people craved an escape from life. But my children grounded me. They were my purpose, my reason to stay strong. No matter how broken I felt, I had to pick up the pieces, for them. Throughout the day, Scarlett's calls bombarded my phone. Her voice filled my voicemail with pleas for understanding, for a chance to explain. Yet she never said the words I so desperately needed to hear. There was no genuine apology, no acknowledgement of the destruction she had caused. Instead, she tried to justify it, framing her betrayal as a fleeting need, something I should somehow accept. But I couldn't, and I wouldn't. She insisted they'd only been together 3 times that night and once more in the morning, as if reducing the tally might somehow make her actions less grievous. That was her defense, delivered with the casualness of someone revealing an inconsequential detail rather than a devastating betrayal. Then she admitted, with a touch of hesitation, that she might not have turned off her phone in time, worried that I could have overheard her and Lucas. She even expressed a faint hope that I hadn't caught too much. I had to acknowledge one thing about her. She had an unparalleled talent for twisting the knife even deeper. How someone could act so recklessly was beyond me. The one solace I found in the wreckage was that I now had enough evidence, recorded proof of her infidelity, that might hold weight in court. Whether it would stand up was uncertain, but it was damaging nonetheless. Tomorrow, I would take my first steps toward addressing this, contacting a lawyer and gathering everything I needed to move forward. Later that evening, I stopped by my mother's house to visit the kids. She informed me that Scarlett had already called, ostensibly to check on them, though her real aim seemed to be fishing for information about me. My mom told her the truth, that I was devastated and unwilling to talk to her. Apparently, Scarlett had burst into tears, claiming not to understand why I was so upset. My mother, in her no-nonsense way, pointed out that no man could tolerate his wife flaunting an affair so brazenly. Scarlett had offered to pick up the kids, but Mom had suggested otherwise, advising her to let them stay a few more days until things calmed down. The children were overjoyed to see me, though their questions about their mother pierced through me like daggers. I told them she was busy with an important project and that they'd stay with Grandma for a little while longer. We spent the evening immersed in games, enjoying dinner, and simply basking in each other's company. I kissed them goodnight before heading back to my motel, knowing the next day would require every ounce of my focus. As the night wound down, I felt a strange compulsion to drive past my house one more time. Tears welled up as I confronted the stark reality of what I'd lost, a life I could never reclaim. The driveway was empty, though I rationalized that Lucas's car could be hidden in the garage. A single light glowed from the kitchen window, suggesting Scarlett was alone. Despite everything, I couldn't shake my concern for her. The betrayal burned in my chest, but a small part of me still cared. Against my better judgment, I parked a block away and approached the house quietly. Peering through the kitchen window, I saw her sitting at the table. A nearly empty bottle of vodka sat nearby, and her appearance was disheveled, hair tangled, mascara smudged across her tear-streaked face. Dressed in a robe, she had her head resting on the table, surrounded by crumpled tissues. A brief wave of sympathy surged within me, but the memory of her choices quickly stamped it out. She had made her decisions, and now she had to live with the consequences. I resisted the temptation to knock on the door. Instead, I returned to my car, driving away with a bitter sense of finality. If she needed comfort, she could turn to Lucas for it. By Monday morning, I knew it was time to focus. After a quiet breakfast at the diner, where I finally managed to stomach some eggs and toast alongside my coffee, I felt more centered. I called my mom to check on the kids and reassure them I'd see them soon. Then I contacted my office, letting them know I'd be unavailable for 2 days due to personal matters. My assistant sounded concerned, but I promised to explain later. Seeking guidance, I decided to reconnect with 2 old college friends, Benjamin Garcia and Oliver Anderson, who had been close during my days at Ole Miss. Benjamin had pursued a career in business, while Oliver had become a lawyer. Though we didn't meet often, we had maintained a steady friendship over the years. I called Benjamin first, explaining I needed advice and arranging for us to meet that evening at a beachside bar. He assured me Oliver would join us. I arrived early, nerves on edge. Oliver was the first to appear, followed by Benjamin shortly after. Warm handshakes and greetings gave way to finding a spot on the patio where we ordered beers. As we raised our glasses for a toast, Benjamin broke the tension. "So, Nigel, what's on your mind?" Your call sounded heavy. I took a deep breath, bracing myself. "Scarlett cheated on me, and she didn't even bother to hide it," I said, recounting the entire ordeal. Benjamin shook his head, his expression full of empathy. "Man, that's rough. I can't believe she'd do something like that." Oliver leaned forward, his tone sharp. "And now she's acting like you're the one being unreasonable?" "Exactly," I said, the frustration in my tone unmistakable. "She treats it like it's nothing. Now I'm weighing divorce, getting even with Lucas, and most importantly, fighting for custody of my kids." Oliver leaned back, his fingers stroking his chin in deep thought. Divorce is one thing, but custody? That's a steep hill to climb unless you can prove she's an unfit mother. If she's exposing the kids to unsafe situations or questionable individuals, you might have a case, he explained. But if she's been a good mom otherwise, the courts will likely favor her, and you could end up paying child support. I'm prepared for that, as long as I can see my kids regularly, I said. Oliver nodded slightly. The courts usually aim to keep both parents involved unless there's a serious risk to the children. Let's shift to finances, Benjamin cut in. Scarlett stays home, right? And you're the one bringing in the income. What's the financial picture like? I laid it all out. I've got checking, savings, a 401k, an IRA, and some other investments. Altogether somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000. Here's the reality, Benjamin began. The court will probably split those assets equally. Scarlett might get the house and primary custody. However, proving infidelity could help you avoid paying alimony. Have you lined up a divorce attorney? I haven't yet, I admitted. Do you know someone good? One of the partners at my firm specializes in family law, Flora Jones. She's top-notch here in Mississippi. Want me to connect you? He offered. The sooner the better, I agreed. Benjamin jumped in again. Send over all your financial documents. I'll look them over and see if there's a way to safeguard some of your assets. We clinked glasses, shared a few more exchanges over drinks, and eventually wrapped up the evening. For the first time in what felt like days, I felt a glimmer of relief. The path ahead was uncertain, but at least I had a plan forming. On the drive back to the motel, my phone buzzed. Scarlett's name lit up the screen. I hesitated before answering, knowing the conversation was inevitable. Pulling over, I picked up, my voice curt. What do you want, Scarlett? What do you think I want, Nigel? She asked, her voice trembling. I want you to come home. That's not happening, I said flatly. Your affair with Lucas made sure of that. Don't say that, she pleaded. Please, Nigel, don't. It was just one night in 10 years. That's not a reason to throw everything away. Infidelity is more than enough reason for divorce in Mississippi, I snapped. Call it a fling if you want, but it's still cheating. It was one mistake, she cried. It didn't mean anything. It wasn't about you. When a married woman spends a night with another man, it doesn't matter if it's 1 second or 1 night. It's cheating, I said sharply. And I warned you what would happen if you crossed this line. I meant every word. Her sobs came through the line. Please, Nigel, don't do this. I never wanted to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me? I retorted, my voice rising. Then what was it, Scarlett? A moment of weakness? A selfish thrill? You knew exactly what this would do to our family, yet you did it anyway. You didn't care about me, the kids, or anything else. I wasn't thinking about that, she said, her voice breaking. I wasn't thinking at all. I didn't realize. And that's the problem, I cut her off bitterly. You didn't think. You wanted excitement, something new, and look where it's brought us. Congratulations, Scarlett. You got your thrill. Now you've lost your husband, broken your family, and wrecked your life. I never wanted it to end like this, she whispered. I still love you. Love? I said, my voice cold and hard. This wasn't about love. This was about you, your desires, your moment. And now you'll have to live with the fallout. Maybe one day I'll forgive you, but don't think for a second I'll ever forget what you've done. I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about what you've done, I said, my voice cutting like ice. Just as you taunted me when I was shattered over your betrayal. Let's see how you manage when the world hears your confession. How many times you were with Lucas? 4, wasn't it? Scarlett's voice quivered as she pleaded. Nigel, I'm begging you. If my parents find out, it will destroy them. It's far too late for remorse, Scarlett, I retorted, my tone unyielding. You should have thought about them before you tore apart everything we had. Now you'll face the consequences. You act as if this is some trivial mistake, like forgetting an appointment or losing a borrowed book. You destroyed a decade of marriage, a bond built on trust, for a meaningless indulgence with a man who doesn't even value you. Was it worth it? Her voice grew sharp as she countered, I haven't lost anything, Nigel. You're the one walking away from everything. If you had truly loved me, you'd have understood and supported what I needed. I froze. her words incomprehensible. Are you serious? No rational person would accept their partner having an affair just to satisfy some whim. That's not love. That's not loyalty. What were you even thinking? She sighed, frustration seeping through her words. I didn't expect you to react like this, she said, almost dismissively. Honestly, Nigel, what's the big deal? Spending a night with another man doesn't mean I love you any less. Plenty of couples at the Jacksons' parties do this. Why can't a wife explore something new just once and move on? Her words struck me like a blow. You craved someone else's touch, I said, my voice tight with disbelief. And you thought that wouldn't destroy us? It wasn't about love, she replied defensively. I just needed to experience something different, one time. Then, I planned to come back to you, fully committed, and never stray again. My anger erupted. You talk about commitment, but you didn't respect me or our marriage enough to honor the promises we made. I begged you not to go through with it, and you brushed it off like it meant nothing. You've shattered over 10 years of trust and love. We have 3 children, Scarlett, 3 innocent lives tied to the love we shared. And you gave away a part of yourself that made us a family. For what? A fleeting thrill? It was one night, she repeated stubbornly. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. You need to let it go and move on. One night, I repeated, shaking my head. That's all it took to unravel everything we built. You betrayed me, our family, our vows, everything we stood for. She stared at me silently before snapping. You're being ridiculous. It didn't change anything. I'm still yours, Nigel. Always? No, I said bitterly, my voice breaking. Everything has changed. You're not mine anymore. You can't be. I begged you not to do it, and you chose to ignore me. Now you expect me to forgive? To pretend this devastation doesn't exist? I drew in a shaky breath, struggling to keep my composure. I've spoken to a lawyer, I said finally. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce. The grounds are infidelity. Lucas's name will be on record, along with anyone else involved in this madness. Imagine the fallout when your precious social circle finds out you're the reason their reputations crumble. Her face twisted with fury. Go to hell, Nigel. I met her glare without flinching. No, I said with cold finality. That's where you and your lies belong. The next morning, I found myself sitting in the office of Flora Jones, ESQ. The moment she began speaking, I knew I had chosen the right advocate. Her demeanor was sharp and direct, a calming force amidst the chaos Scarlett had unleashed. She asked me to explain why I wanted a divorce and what outcome I hoped to achieve. I laid out my intentions clearly. I aimed to divide our assets in a way that left Scarlett with the house, accepting a smaller cash settlement in return. While I knew full custody of our children was unlikely, my focus was on securing unrestricted visitation rights without the obligation to pay child support. Additionally, I provided her with all the audio recordings I had of Scarlett openly confessing to her affair with Lucas. Flora listened intently, her expression one of disbelief. Your wife was incredibly careless, she remarked, referring to Scarlett's blunt admissions on the tapes. This evidence could be pivotal in court, provided we authenticate it with a voice recognition expert. Unless the judge harbors a clear bias, it's likely to make an impact. We then spent an hour formulating a plan, not only for the divorce but also to address Lucas and the others involved in the wife-swapping situation. Flora was skeptical about pursuing financial compensation from them, but suggested exposing their actions, potentially damaging their reputations. That prospect was enough for me. After making a down payment, I asked Flora to ensure Scarlett was served with the divorce papers promptly. She assured me it would be done quickly and promised to notify me beforehand. By Tuesday afternoon, I picked up the kids from my mother and brought them to Scarlett's house. She greeted them warmly, wrapping them in hugs. When she extended her arms toward me, I instinctively stepped back. Tears filled her eyes as she begged me to stay, but I stood my ground, telling her I couldn't. I decided it was best for the kids to stay with her during the week, planning to pick them up on Friday for the weekend. Seeing her in such visible distress stirred a fleeting sympathy within me, but I reminded myself of her choices. Her pain was no greater than the hurt she had inflicted on me. On Wednesday, I returned to work, determined to maintain focus. My job provided both financial stability and a much-needed distraction from the emotional chaos. Allowing Scarlett's betrayal to consume my thoughts wouldn't help me move forward, and I had my children's well-being to prioritize. That Thursday evening, I met Benjamin and Oliver for dinner at the Oyster House. Over a meal of oysters and martinis, I updated them on my divorce proceedings and my plans for the kids. Benjamin, who was working to secure some of my assets, assured me he was making progress. I gave him the green light to move forward with his efforts, knowing every bit would count. We also discussed how to expose the wife-swapping group without crossing any legal boundaries. Oliver proposed contacting a journalist friend at the Biloxi Sun-Herald who could write an exposé. With details about the Jackson house and the group's meeting schedule, the story could be framed to stir public outrage without naming names. I shared what information I had, and Oliver assured me he'd handle the rest. For the first time in weeks, I felt a faint sense of relief. The weekend with my children was a welcome respite. We went shopping, watched a movie at the Grand 18, and spent time at the beach, swimming and playing frisbee. They became the center of my universe, and I silently vowed never to let them down. By Monday, Oliver called with encouraging news. His journalist friend had already begun drafting the article and had even taken photos of couples entering the Jackson house. Though slightly blurred, the images would likely be recognizable in our small community. Oliver speculated the article could make the front page by the weekend. Meanwhile, Scarlett continued calling me, pleading for a second chance and promising to do whatever it took to make things right. Yet, she never once apologized or acknowledged her mistakes. By Wednesday, Flora informed me that Scarlett would be served the divorce papers on Friday. That same day, Benjamin updated me on his progress with my assets, successfully transferring a third of my funds into accounts under my children's names to shield them from potential claims. Oliver also reported that his journalist contact was preparing to take more photographs during the next meeting at the Jackson house that Friday. He suggested including an interview with me in the article, and I agreed, seeing it as a step toward closure. On Friday afternoon, Flora called to confirm that Scarlett had been served. Shortly after, my phone buzzed. It was Scarlett. I answered, keeping my composure as I braced for her reaction. "What have you done, Nigel?" she demanded, her voice trembling with anger. I followed through on my resolution and filed for divorce, just as I had promised myself I would. "I've taken the necessary actions," I informed Scarlett, my voice level and controlled. "And I've already told you there won't be a divorce," Scarlett replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "One night with another man isn't the same as cheating, Nigel." "I don't see it that way," I said firmly. "When you're married and you sleep with someone else, it's infidelity. That's not just my view, it's how the law defines it too." Her anguish was unmistakable, her voice cracking as she tried to reason with me. "Why are you so angry, Nigel? I love you. Can't we move past this?" "You had an affair with Lucas, Scarlett. That isn't something I can just overlook. You crossed a boundary, and now there are consequences for what you've done. Goodbye, Scarlett." With those words, I ended the conversation, my tone steady, even though my chest felt heavy. Deep down, I knew a part of me still loved her, and perhaps I always would. But love wasn't enough to rebuild the trust she had shattered. Once broken, trust rarely heals, and for us, that meant our marriage was irreparably broken. Though I knew it was irrational, I couldn't resist the urge to drive by the Jacksons' house that Friday evening. I wanted to see if Scarlett's car was parked outside, a foolish, impulsive decision. Fortunately, it wasn't there. Of course, there was always the possibility she'd come with someone else. The Jacksons were known to make exceptions for certain guests. I parked a short distance away and noticed a plain-looking van that I suspected belonged to a reporter staking out the area. With a wry thought of, good luck with that, I pulled back onto the street and drove home. Later that night, Oliver's journalist friend called, asking if I could provide any additional details. Eager to contribute, I shared what I knew. He mentioned that he'd captured over 100 photos and had spotted a number of well-known locals at the scene. Some people didn't even bother trying to hide who they were, he noted. When he confirmed that Scarlett hadn't been there, he asked about the logistics of the infamous key-swapping gatherings. Drawing from what Scarlett had told me and snippets of conversation I'd overheard, I described the process as accurately as I could. I had never witnessed it myself, but I provided enough detail to paint a vivid picture. By Sunday morning, the scandal was plastered across the front page of the Biloxi Sun-Herald. The headline and accompanying photographs sent shockwaves through the city. The main image featured couples coming and going from the Jacksons' house, their faces blurred, but their attire and vehicles instantly recognizable to those who knew them. Inside the paper, 4 full pages were dedicated to uncovering the sordid story. By Monday, the fallout was in full swing. The exposé dominated every conversation, on local radio shows, TV news segments, and even in sermons at church. Religious leaders condemned the moral decay it revealed. City officials lamented the blow to the city's reputation, and lawsuits against the newspaper flooded in almost immediately. For me, the public scandal offered little satisfaction. Scarlett's betrayal had left wounds too deep to be healed by the exposure of others' secrets. She continued to reach out, trying to reconcile, but I held firm. When our divorce was finalized, we settled on shared custody of the children. She had them on weekends, and I took care of them during the week. It wasn't an ideal arrangement, but it was workable. Despite the temptation, I chose not to share the audio recording of Scarlett's confession with anyone. Allowing her that small measure of privacy felt like the last act of decency I could extend to her. Meanwhile, the couples involved in the key-swapping parties faced harsh repercussions. Some marriages ended in divorce, with families packing up and leaving town. Others simply vanished from the city's social circles altogether. Scarlett eventually began dating again, though it was evident she never fully grasped the seriousness of what she'd done. As for me, I tried going on a few dates but found it difficult to open myself up to someone new. A handful of women wanted more from me, hoping to move in and share a life, but I couldn't take that step. The idea of trusting someone so completely felt out of reach. I wasn't ready to hand anyone another key. My friend, and this is the end of the story. If you liked this story, then put your royal like and subscribe to the channel. May the force be with you.